Welcome to the Von Bros of Joseph show, guys. We've got a very, very special guest with us tonight. I've been trying to get this woman on my show for months, and it's finally about to happen, so very, very excited. Check out our website, you guys, v3tv.com, or I'm sorry, v3tv.uk. Tonight's show is going to be sponsored by Ace Threads, so check out.
What do you want out of life? What do you want out of life? Is it the money? Is it the cars? Is it the hoes? Just let me know. What do you want out of life? What do you want out of life?
Out the website, there's their link right there. They've got snapback hats, they've got shirts, they've got what you need, so check out acethreads.com, you guys. So tonight we've got Rebecca Scott. She's the author of Hip Hop Illuminati, Satan's Children's. She's got all kinds of books. She's all out there. She's got a new book coming out called Fake Blood, and she's in the process of making a film. She's all over the place, you guys. So she's got tons of stories. We only have her for a little time because she needs to get back to set. So let's just get right down and get right dirty and get right to it. So Rebecca Scott, ladies and gentlemen, what's the good word, young lady? Tell me what's going on in New York.
Okay, so I'll stop myself from religion so I can talk to you. I was just putting up a few of my books. I've written actually 35 books to date. And Fake Blood is not a new book. It's actually a book that I wrote about a year ago. And it's about the search for my daughter, who was a member of the Bloods gang. And I went undercover in what we call out here in New York trap houses. And so I lived in a few of them, which were run by Bloods, and I was undercover. I didn't tell them what I was doing or who I was. And I was able to get away with this mainly because for a 60-year-old abroad, I don't quite look it, and I was able to use my acting skills to convey myself as much younger. And I also, during this time and during this search, I had the help of a Blood who also didn't know what my real intention was. So, I was able to utilize the relationship that I had with him to get to my means. And that's the film that I'm working on now. It's called Fake Blood, and I'm exposing it because in one of my books, Secret Societies, I talk about secret societies of New York. I talk about how gangs are actually secret societies as well. You know, all the secret societies are not just the elite. Anything that is done secretly that involves initiations and rituals, and they even have hand signs, are secret societies. So I cover them. And so that's the project I'm working on now, and that's where I am going to be going back to when I do this interview. But it was important for me to do the interview with you, Brother Vaughn, because we have been trying to link up, and you've been so diligent and patient that of everyone, I wanted to be sure that I did your show.
Well, we appreciate that very much, and yes, we have been hot on your trail for many months now to try and get you to come on to the show. The Fake Blood book. What I read the chapters that you sent me. What period did that take place in? Was that recently? Is that the 90s?
No, not at all. It was recently. It was the year before last when I lived in the last trap house, right. And that's when it took place. If you've read my book, The Thug Bible, which is my life story, it talks about how I went to jail for drug trafficking. And it was also a direct result of my dealing with the elite Illuminati in the music industry, which was what I was a part of for 30 years. before my imprisonment gave me an early retirement. And so it's when I came home from prison that I was looking for my grown daughter, and I wanted to reestablish, my connection with her. And I found out that she was running with the Bloods, and no one would give me any information, and I decided to see how I could find her on my own.
Wow. That is something that I wanted to ask you about. So I know it's related to the story, but it kind of deviates from this discussion, discussing the book. The 10 years for drug trafficking. I remember hearing this story. You telling the story. I think it was probably on Corey Holcomb's show, 5150.
Yes.
This was a couple years ago. Can you give us a little bit more background on that? Because I know that there's other conversations that are circulating about this TV show Empire as well. I don't know if we're at liberty to talk about that now or at all, but there seems to be quite a few parallels with what took place with what you were doing and who you were in the industry versus what's going on that show. And then how did you get from that point to the 10 years for drug trafficking?
Okay, to sum it up, I was in the hip-hop music industry, and I was one of the most successful female managers in the game during my time. But I also still had one foot in the street. I was connected with a clique that went by the name of BMF, and as a result, see, what people don't understand about the entertainment business is you're really only as hot as your last record. So in between making money, making movies, making music, you're living this lifestyle that still you're trying to maintain when the royalties and the residuals are not coming through. And it's not an excuse, it's actually a weak-ass excuse, but a lot of us never had any money. It's like Jay said in one of his earlier rhymes, I don't mean to brag about what I got, but I'm used to not having a lot. So when we get something and we've never had anything, we usually hold on to it really, really tight. And a lot of us, especially in our youth, do anything to keep it. And so what I did is I got into bed, literally and figuratively, with some really bad people who had came into the game for the purpose of changing the game. And the game of hip-hop, for those who are really serious hip-hop heads, they might remember that it started out as a real positive thing. It was fun. It was about breaking. Even the movies back then. I was in Beat Street, which was produced by Harry Belafonte.
Wait a minute. And stop. Where were you at in Beat Street? Because that's my movie.
I'm one of the dancers at Ramon's funeral.
Really?
If you remember.
At the Rock.
Yeah. Yes. It's eons ago. And I think I had a record on my head that was supposed to be a hat, because they had us looking really crazy, because that's what they thought hip hop was about. Right. And to a certain extent it was, but it was fun. And so as the 90s entered, and as these, and actually as early as the 80s, when people saw the potential for hip hop to make money, they then decided that they wanted in. And the people who came in, these big corporations like Universal, I'll never forget them. They, Universal is part of the Diddy music group, and it's also part of the Seagram's empire, which, is getting everyone drunk. Right. And, these are big money people. Rothman is a billionaire, and you have these companies that, they smell money a mile away, and they decide we want to be a part of it. If you're looking around for your Seagrams.
No, my earpiece fell out.
Okay. It looks like you have your little liquor shelf in the back.
I do. That's for when we have guests.
I see it. Wow. Oh, too bad I'm not live. Well, just pour some on the floor for me. But so at any rate, they started getting into the game, and the problem with dealing with big money people is that usually there comes big problems, because they don't want to get into business with you. They want to use you, and they want to reap the most benefit. So how I wound up in prison was I wound up trafficking. And the person that I was trafficking for, she was from the very wealthy family that owned real estate in New York City. What is now called number 4 Times Square was back then called the Durst Building, and the woman who I was trafficking for was one of the Durst, and I actually had $1 million office space in that building that I wasn't paying for. And when I initially started, I didn't know what I was taking back and forth with me, because basically she would look at my itinerary and see, you know, what venues and where we were going, and if there was a drop or a pickup in that location, then I was paid to do it. And it was a pretty penny. I got $10,000 per drop or pickup. But when I finally realized that inside this artwork was actually drugs, by then I was too caught up in the money. And being young and foolish didn't help. So that's how I got tied in with that. But even bigger than that, there was an agenda to change the music. And it was Universal who gave, with what was called cash money back then, but they later became Young Money, their first big check. And if you remember, they had a record way back then. This is when Juvie and Manny and all of them were part of the crew. And they're not now, and there's a lot behind that as well. But they were the ones who coined the term bling with that song Bling Bling. Right. And this was a whole promulgation of that Bolo lifestyle. This is when everybody jumped on the Bolo lifestyle in their videos, and the music changed. And it was all part of a mind control agenda. And I've said this before, and you probably heard me say it on Corey's show, is that, you know, back in the 1800s, the mind control through music, this is not a new thing. This is actually a very old thing. And it's been used over and over again. And the mind control in music, it's based on something that a doctor, a French doctor, German doctor, but he worked out of France in the 1800s. His name was Anton Mesmer, and his name is where the word mesmerize comes from. And he started studying the connection between people being fed suggestive tones and vibrations, and being put in rooms with flashing lights and this repetitive beats and music, and how they were able to be manipulated by this. And that's where the concept of the discotheque came from, which is a French word, and it came from this concept of the flashing lights and the music and the loud music. And so when hip hop was changed, it was even NWA. You know, it's odd that Cube and them decided to tell the story, but the only problem is they only told half the damn story. That whole thing with the introduction of gangster rap, that was also part of the agenda. And the agenda is to get as many of these young black kids in jail or dead as possible. But people don't see that because it's a hot beat behind it. So it doesn't matter if it says, well, kill your mother and you will F your sister and, all sorts of other derogatory things that young people shouldn't be thinking about, much less repeating. And you can go in any hood and see a young person walking down the street and they're spouting off these lyrics and they look crazy. Yeah. They're listening to something in their headphones, but they don't even realize that they're being hypnotized because now they're angry. So God forbid you bump into them or step on their toe. It's like, it incites a riot. Yeah. And that is what it's intended to do. So there was a whole agenda behind it. And even my brothers in BMF, which shout out to Nietzsche and Terry, they made a carnal mistake when they put up that billboard down in Atlanta, basically saying that the world is theirs, because the world is never yours when someone else is writing your check.
What is the end goal or the end game for these record companies? Because like you said, they've they took hip hop, they saw it, and I remember when in the '80s when I was growing up and seeing like the Flintstones commercial for the cereal and Fred Flintstone is rapping. I knew at that point that there was something wrong when they started putting it in the cereal commercials. They commercialized it to death. So now it's progressed to a point where everyone's wearing their pants hanging off their ass, and they've been doing that for a while now, but it's to a point where I think the music, the imagery of the music has gotten so become so effeminate. Everything, these guys, they don't look masculine anymore. I don't what I mean, is that just something that I just see, or is that moving towards what the end game is? I mean, and I don't know if you know, or if you know have any information.
Of course I know. I watch these things, and this is part of what I do. This is my assignment, and you're so on target. Because I don't know if you've seen my video on my Hollywood YouTube channel. Just put that plug in there. I have a video called Illuminati Gay Agenda.
Oh yeah, we watched it a couple weeks ago before we did one of our shows. So yeah, I have seen that.
Okay, so there is an agenda because there's this whole concept of a new world order. It's bigger than just music. It's bigger than politics. It's actually gearing towards a totally new way of life. And this is why they want the religious element out of it. The whole idea behind the gay acceptance and the acceptance of the gay culture is to institute laws whereby you can't even talk about these things without being accused of a type of hate crime. So there's going to come a time when they're going to be locking up people who make videos like mine, because we're going to be accused of hate crimes, whereby we're just exercising our freedom of speech, but every day we're losing our freedoms, and that comes, along with the whole police shootings and the Patriot Act and all of these things that are instituted. And there are even some states where it is now against the law to wear your pants sagging. They will actually arrest you, cite you, give you a DAT for that. And I mean, I'm not a fan of that. I address that in my video because it's disgusting, and I certainly don't want to go into an establishment where I'm eating or I have to get served by someone whose ass is hanging over my food. So, but I don't support arresting these boys for that. I support some type of training, whether it's in home or whether it's people like myself, adults. I have teenage grandsons, and they know not to come around. I don't know what they do when grandma's not around, but they know what not to do when I am around. And I'm hoping that they are also listening to me when I'm not around. Mm. But yes, it's becoming a whole total acceptance of things, whether you like it or not. So we're not going to have any rights. In a very short time, it's going to be a nation of do as we say, not as we do, and definitely not as you do.
Yeah, I find that a lot of, I'm over here in London now. I'm from the U.S., obviously, and I see it from a different perspective because I'm not inundated with the media that you're seeing. And I see that there is just this push to get everybody to give up their guns, to, like you said about gay acceptance. You've got this what's her name? The Bruce Jenner turned into a woman, Caitlyn
yes.
now thing out. So and you can't.
Caitlyn is under the Kardashian witch curse. Those Kardashians, they're all witches, and they have been for a while. And Caitlyn they look at every man that's ever went through that clan. There's something wrong, even down to Lamar. I mean, he may have been given a second chance, but if he jumps back into that clan, he's going to wind up dead. Mm. Every man that's ever been connected to them is either dead, crazy, or somewhere lost in cyberspace. You can't even find them now. Where's Humphreys and all the other ones?
Oh yeah, that.
So
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what's up with Chris. We haven't heard anything about Chris for a while. So
yeah, they probably killed him. He's probably under the house.
Yeah, it's crazy because so they talk all this about guns and we need to have gun control, and from my perspective, the issue, well, not the issue, but one of the key components to why there are so many guns illegally flooding into the streets in the U.S. and the ones that are on the streets versus in the hands of law-abiding citizens or registered owners is the southern border. So they're coming up with these gangs and these drug runners through Mexico, and they tried that Fast and Furious thing where they took guns down there and they lost track of them, and they were still killing Americans with these guns. They killed a border patrol officer with one of these guns. And again, with the gay thing, you can't say anything derogatory about a gay person, but you can say something bad about a black person, but you can't say anything bad about, a white person, because therefore you're a racist. And you can't say anything about a gay person because it's against their civil rights. But you can say bad things about religion, which is they're trying to erode that away. And to me, it's so funny because over here in England, they always have this big argument about, well, we don't have any guns here. Well, more people get stabbed here than you would want to stand to believe. And in the U.S., more people die from drunk driving related accidents than they do from gunshots every year. But nobody's trying to take your car away from you. So I don't understand why there's this push. And I think the government is probably trying to take more control than they should have from the people. And like you said, all your rights are being eroded. The Second Amendment gone, Fourth Amendment gone, all your rights to privacy's gone. All those things are gone, but you don't realize it. Like you said, Patriot Act. You guys signed in net neutrality about 2 years ago. That's gonna come back to bite everybody in the ass because they're gonna have access to all our internet stuff, and they're gonna be able to shut down certain sites.
Guess what? They already do.
Do they?
Yes. I talk about that in my book. Well, I talk about it in a few books, but especially in my book, Deprogramming Black America, I talk about how all of these devices like LoJack and, think about it. If it can find your car, it can find you.
Right.
They're all tracking devices. Over here in New York and a lot of the other major cities, we use something called a Metro card to get on and off the public transportation. And people who have been accused of crimes, they actually can check their Metro card to see where they've been and to connect them to what the crime is. If your card says you were in that neighborhood at the time it was committed, then pretty much you're the number one suspect. And it goes on and on and on. One of the reasons I don't have a television is because when it became mandatory for us to turn our TVs and get the new HD, they actually shut off your TV. I'll never forget it. You couldn't look at it without the damn box. And I said, this is some thing, a New World Order initiative, so that they can look into your homes. And then I did some research and I found out in Russia, for years, television has been watching the people, not the other way around. And in Russia, the TV watches you. So it's just another bit of communist propaganda. And even your cell phone, that's why they have all these different things. And forget about it in Foursquare and all these other online programs where you can tell your friends where you're at. You're also telling the burglars where you're at. You're telling them I'm not home. And then a little map comes up right where you live. So it makes it easy for people to break in and steal your stuff. And you've got to be careful with your technology.
Yeah, they've got something like that they implemented here, where they market it as a device to younger drivers so that you can help lower their insurance. So what it is it's a device you put into your car that can see how well you're driving. So it basically tracks where you go, how fast you go, and so on and so forth. But it's marketed as a device that will, keep the teens from driving a certain way, and then when they drive better, then they get a lower insurance rate. But in actuality, it's probably much more like what you've said, where they just want to be able to see where you are, where you've gone, and so on.
Yes. They never tell you exactly what it is. This is the generation of lies. Believe nothing of what you hear. Believe nothing of what you even see. A lot of what you see is not even real. They have ways of, and they YouTube made me take off my cloning video.
I was showing. Ask you about that after you were saying about not believing what you see. They made you take it off.
Oh yes. They conveniently find ways to antagonize me if I go in too deep, and they found a way with my cloning video to accuse me of copyright infringement when all the images that I used were public domain. But you can't argue with them if you're relying on their service, and this is how the Illuminati also keeps the people under control, because you have to depend on them to eat, you have to depend on them for your utilities, and so there's always the threat of being in darkness. There's the threat of having your credit denied. How many times have people gone to use their credit card and it's blocked or frozen, or there's no money there, and you had money there, and there's all kind of little things that are played to keep you and to remind you that you're not in charge, and you never really were. Even the laws were made to be broken. In New York and a lot of other places, your kids don't even belong to you. All it takes is one phone call to the Child Administrative Services, and they don't even have to have proof. They will come to your door and take your children while the burden of proof is sought. So you're without your children, and they're in foster care or group home or wherever, somewhere where they can learn to be criminals, and you have to prove that you didn't do what you're being accused of. And that time is coming as well. It's already here in terms of crimes with the new Homeland Security and these new anti-terrorism. If you're even suspected of being a terrorist, they can come and lock you up while you have to prepare the burden of proof that you're not. So you don't even have to be caught in an act of terrorism. All your neighbors have to say is, I think she's in there building a bomb, or I think she was talking about doing it, or whatever, and it gets to the authorities, and then they can come and get you while you have to pay enormous amounts of money to prove that, no, that's not what I was talking about.
Yeah, that's been going on since 9/11, because I remember I don't remember if it was in California when I was living in LA, but some guy overheard two guys talking in the gym, in the locker room, and one of them, they were just talking about, what happened at the World Trade Center. And
yes.
he called the Homeland Security, and they were at those guys' house, within hours, knocking on the door. So, excuse me, it's real easy to stitch somebody up when it comes to something like that. It's just a matter of making a phone call and saying, I heard, John Joseph talking about he was going to do this, that, and the other, even when you didn't even really hear it. All you have to do is say that you heard it, and then, knock, knock, knock. They're coming and they're taking you away. Why do you think the people aren't really bothered by this? It seems to me like everyone is so just caught up in looking at fight videos on YouTube and these 2-minute little clips of just pointless stuff, while all these things are just taking place and people are operating right in their face right now, like with this stuff that happened in New York where the Pope came, and this Agenda 2030, and it all seems like everything is right in your face right now, and nobody seems to think anything of it. And I don't understand why more stuff isn't kicking off as a result. I
can answer that with two reasons that I personally think. The first one, which is what I said earlier, is fear. People realize that you're not in charge. You're not in charge of your life. You're not in charge of your kids. You're not even in charge of your job. So people fear losing these things. For many years, I was homeless. And I actually, part of that time, I chose to be. It was part of my staying under the radar. So even times when I had thousands of dollars in my pocket, I stayed under the radar because I didn't want to be found. And those were the times when I was making my most controversial videos as well. And I knew that people would be looking to hunt me down. But not everybody can do that. No, a lot of people have young children. They can't just up and leave and go sleep in the subways and hide out at different locations while they're making a difference. People have to feed their families, and a lot of times, even though the job sucks, they need it. Yeah. So they're going to go to it because they can't afford to lose it. And so that's one reason people are complacent and they have this need. Well, actually, the complacency is the other reason. The first one is necessity. They need to survive and to work and to live, and they don't want the repercussions that come from making noise about something. Because the minute you decide to become a martyr, there's no turning back. People now, especially with records of what you've said, I've had people years later tell me about a video I did 5-10 years ago, and like you said, and so you can't hide from it. And then the other thing is complacency. A lot of people are living what they consider really good, and they don't want that to end. And so they're not concerned beyond their own doorstep. Their kids are eating. They've got all these little fat kids running around that are eating good every day. The parents are eating good every day. They eat so well they can't even get up from the table, so they wheel themselves over to the TV and they're enjoying all these poisonous shows. And it's entertainment for them because it gets them away from the boss that they hate and the job they hate, and that's what they look forward to. That's why when the bell rings and work is over, you can't find anyone, because they can't wait to get out of there to get home to indulge themselves in what they feel are the fruits of their labor. And they don't want this picture to end. And it's not going to become clear or important to people until it hits their doorstep.
Why do you think there's such an influx, at least in my opinion, with all of these reality TV shows that are portraying chaos and like these women behaving a certain way? And I mean, and our kids are glued to these television programs, Love and Hip Hop and Basketball Wives, Kardashians. I don't have any children, but I wouldn't want my kids watching this crap because they're going to be programmed to think that that's how you're supposed to act as a woman or as a man or whatever. And they're, a lot of times the parents aren't there to monitor that. And to be honest, we probably put our kids in front of the TV as a form of a babysitter because it watches you by making you watch it, So it's like I feel like that there's some sort of agenda just to ruin the youth by giving them such crappy programming.
It goes right back to the Anton Mesmer, which is not even a theory, it's the reality that the programming, this is why, now if you really want to break it down, this is why television is called programming, because it is indeed programming the watcher and the listener. But the program is even before TV. Before there was TV, people would sit around and they'd all listen to the radio. And that was a form of programming. I don't know if you remember when Orson Welles, well, no, you wouldn't remember, and I actually don't even remember, but there was a big thing where he pulled this big coup on the radio, and it was a joke, but people fell for it because they were already programmed to believe that whatever they heard in the media was true.
Yep.
So the children being attracted to this trash, the programming was begun long before these shows came on TV. The program was done in the music, and it was done in even though earlier shows didn't necessarily have the content that they have now on regular network TV. With the introduction of cable came a lot of stuff that you could not find on regular TV. So you see the butt naked girls, and you see the lascivious behavior and all of that. All you needed was cable. And when cable came around, they spent big budgets to entice households to have it. It was almost like you couldn't find anything good unless you had cable.
Yeah.
And so that's where the programming began. And it also comes from these celebrities. These celebrities, most of them are Illuminati pawns. They are being used to promote an agenda. That's why when you see that starlet with her butt cheeks hanging out at an award show, that's promoting to the young people who are looking at it that this is what's desirable, and this is how you should dress, and this is how you're going to get that, quote, baller. And what they don't realize is that any man worth his salt is not going to want a woman like that. He'll sneak her in the back door, but he's not going to bring her to mama, But this is not what's conveyed. They had one of the highest grossing movies was about how a prostitute was able to snag a rich man, pretty woman. Julia Roberts, that was her ticket to the rest of her $1 million movies. That with Richard Gere. And that's not reality. But this is what's fed to the youth, and it creates heaps, courts and jails and treatment. All of these things are big money businesses. And so in order to keep them in business, you've got to have the consumers who partake of these services. You've got to have addicts so that the $1 million treatment centers can stay in business. And you've got to have criminals in order to have the jails stay in business. And now with private prisons, and I did this in a video, I don't know if you saw my video about Michael Jordan, but the same Michael Jordan who makes these Air Jordans and all these wonderful sneakers, and I'm saying that sarcastically, but he's the same one who is one of the biggest investors in the private prison system. So while you're wearing your Air Jordans and running away from the police, he's still going to make money when you go to jail.
Yeah.
And the kids don't know that.
No, most don't. I've only recently learned that about Jordan. I've never owned a pair of Jordans in my life. It was never anything that I aspired to. But that's crazy. That's crazy. That's what's going on.
Well, you look like you have style, so that's probably why you don't own them.
No, don't have them. Wanted to ask you something else. We did a show months back. We do a show called Conspiracies or Cock-Ups, which is basically about Illuminati, which is really what we should have had you on for, is that show, because you have all the information. I should probably rebrand the show and just make it as such. But 3 images that I want you to try to explain to the people. I know what I've determined them to mean, but why are so many people going like this, and going like this?
Okay. Let's start with the first one. And I'm not going to do it because I refuse to do the signs, but a lot of people say that the first image that you put up was the Helen Keller, who was the deaf mute woman who became very famous, created that sign to say I love you. It's the I love you sign. And I actually, in my book, Hip Hop Illuminati, I talk about, and by the way, all of my books are available on Amazon. You can just type in amazon.com/author/Rebecca Scott, and you can see all of my books. And in that, I talk about, Helen Keller was a devil worshiper. She was a theist. She didn't believe in God. And so a lot of things that are done in order to convert people and to put things out into the universe, they're done secretly. They're not going to tell you this is what it really means. But if you look on the early Beatles albums, and where they have Aleister Crowley, who was a devil worshiper, and he was part of that "do what thou wilt" whole concept, and you will see these very same symbols being done. Even for Michael, if you look at early pictures of him when he was first starting out with the Jacksons, he's holding up symbols. Yep. So people want to twist it and say, no, that's not what it means, because of course, if the people know what it means, they're not going to do it. Same thing with the second symbol that you did, which was the pyramid. A lot of people like to say that it was Jay-Z's symbol for Rockefeller. Well, there are a lot of things that need to be considered. First of all, it's obviously a pyramid. And why would a young black man from the hood name his company after an Illuminati elitist family that cares nothing about his black butt in promotion? And then all of a sudden now, last time I checked, and I do know Jay, the last time I checked, he didn't have a business degree. But all of a sudden, now here he is this big man, respectable businessman who hobnobs with Bill Gates and all of these other people who wouldn't give him a time of day when he was still a Nazi. So you have to see and put it's like a puzzle. You have to put the pieces together. A lot of people don't have time for that because they're too busy in the arena screaming H to the Izzo. But when you're giving someone that type of honor and they're saying that to you that they're Jehovah God, and you're in agreement and you're raising your hands in agreement, then you have already broken the first commandment by putting other gods before the one true God. And the problem with this world is that people make money, and it's been like this since the beginning of time. They make idols of things that are of this world. And so by following behind these celebrities, they are in effect saying, we idolize you, we adore you. And this is where the word fan comes from. They're fanatics. Every time I talk about Jay-Z, I cannot tell you how many times I get cursed out in my videos because I've offended one of his zombie-like followers. All they know is, Jay-Z, and get over it, because he does not care anything about you. And it's the same way with these Hollywood people. You've got people who are just enamored of someone because they have fame or because they have money or even beauty to get really real with it. And so they lust after these things, because you don't only have to lust after money. Some people lust after just the individual that is portraying things that they want to be. And this is why some people even go out and do the things that are talked about in these songs, like hustling and selling drugs and this and that and the other thing, because they think that's going to make them the next Jay-Z. Half of these young hustlers in New York, all of them can rap. But they're on the corner selling weed. But ask them to spit a few bars. Boy, they're good. But they think that the ticket to the industry is hustling. That's what's going to get them there. And then the final thing is the one eye over the hand over the one eye. I covered that before. And it goes back to an old Egyptian. A lot of this stuff is ruled in Egypt. But if people were to get into their word, they would realize that one of the reasons that Moses and the Hebrews were delivered out of Egypt is because of their refusal to believe and acknowledge God. They had their own gods, they had their own things that they worshiped, and that symbol, the one eye over the hand, it symbolized and characterizes Horus, which is, the all-seeing eye. It has several connotations, and to those, who believe in that, they believe that they have an all-seeing eye, that they can see everything and know everything. And this is not true. It's the same with the whole Illuminati concept of the owl. For instance, if you look at Bohemian Grove, the symbol of that, and a lot of elitists, are the owl, and it's the same concept. The all-seeing, the owl sees things in the dark. What does that mean? It means it sees things that you can't see. And that's why all of these things are being instituted right under the people's eyes, because they're refusing to see. I'll tell you something I tell people when I speak at colleges. It's a nice icebreaker. I say, when a person, of course, now that I want to repeat it, I can't remember it exactly, but I'm going to tell you what I say, and it may not be verbatim the exact way that I say it, but when a person with money meets a person with experience, the person with the money walks away with the experience, and the person with the experience walks away with the money. So in effect, a lot of us who are busy with our daily lives, who don't have time to research stuff or to see what's behind the coding, a lot of people are going to wake up one day with one hell of an experience. And a lot of people who are slaves to what they own and what they have and what they're getting, they're going to wind up with nothing.
It's heavy.
Yes.
That's heavy.
And I don't know everything. That's why every day I need you deep in my research. Before I do a video, there's two things I got to do. I got to research it and make sure I check my facts, even things I think I know, and then I have to pray about it. Because my director, who's working with me on this film, he said, "Aren't you worried about getting killed?" And I said, "Well, it's kind of late for that, because the time to worry was 10 years ago when I started doing what I do."
There's an election coming up next year. Who do you think is going to be your next president, and why?
Okay. I'm going to tell you this, and it'll give you something to ponder, because I actually need to get offline.
That's fine.
But I like leaving people with something that's thought-provoking. And I'm going to tell you this, and you may believe it or you may not, but the person who's going to win has already been selected. Elections are a farce. They are put in place to placate the people, to make them think that they have contributed to the selection. It is already decided before you go to the polls who's going to win. It's simply another ritual. That's what the elections are.
I agree with you there. The reason that I came to that conclusion, I had always often thought that when I lived in LA, there was a proposition on the ballot, probably about 2008 or 9 or something like that. It was called Proposition 8, and it was for legalizing gay marriage. And the vote had been taken. The majority of the state of California, with, mind you, San Francisco and gay West Hollywood, contributing millions of votes to this, didn't want gay marriage. They didn't want it. They voted against having it, which I believe was yes on Prop 8. I don't recall. So there was an appeal sent to the 8th Court of Appeals up in the San Francisco area, and they overturned the ruling of the people, So you have millions of people that voted, tens of millions in California voted for this, and one judge said, that's not what's going to happen. We're going to put this through anyway. It doesn't matter what all you people voted on. So once that took place, I knew that voting was nothing more than just an exercise, and it doesn't really matter. Like you said, they're selected, not elected. That's it, man. I mean, that was a massive 40 minutes of information. I wish we had about 3 more hours to talk with you. If you ever get any free time, please let us know, because we will be happy to have you back on. Where can people find you, Miss Scott? You have Twitter. I've got your Twitter handle up on the screen. Is there somewhere else that we can find you, or anything else that you're promoting right now?
Yes, you can post my Facebook. I'm over the time limit, but I constantly get rid of people every day, because some people friend me just so they can curse me out. So once they do that, they're gone. And definitely, come to my YouTube, and that's Hollywood is my YouTube, and those are my mediums. I discourage people from email unless it's business related, because I really don't have time to look at a lot of emails, and I'm knee deep in my projects. And for you, Brother Vaughn, I want to say just thank you so much for your patience and your diligence in getting me. And I will definitely come back. It may not be, quickly, but I will come back, because I think you're doing a good thing. I appreciate that you even provide a platform for myself and others like me to spout off, because a lot of people are afraid if they're to even have us on the show.
Yeah.
And I don't care. I mean, Wendy and I go back so many years, and she will not have me on the show to save her life. But I understand she's part of that corporate machine, and the Illuminati cuts her checks, so she's not going to have anyone on there that's going to be too controversial. But God bless you, and thank you. That's what I want to say to you.
Well,
thank you.
Everybody, go to Amazon. If you're on Amazon Books, or if you have a Kindle account, go to Amazon, check out Rebecca Scott's books. She's got tons of books on there. Hit her up on Twitter at real_Holly_hood, just like it says right there on the screen. Thanks for coming on, and we hope to have you back. Hopefully,
and one more thing,
Yep.
really important. If you have Kindle, you can read my books free.
Oh, you get
I have a Kindle that they let folks read them free, and they pay me for people to read my books.
Oh, well,
So
no more excuses, guys. Kindle, if you got it, hook it up. Get out there, read the books. We're gonna have Miss Scott back on Conspiracies or Cock-Ups episode, hopefully before March. I'm gonna try and bug her for the next, couple, 3-4 months, and get her back in before my birthday.
I'll do my best.
Right on.
Gotcha.
Good luck with your filming. Thank you very much for spending your time with us today, and thank you for coming on. We'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That was great. Thanks for coming out today. I really appreciate it. Get back to work. Go make some magic. Let's put that up to there. So that was Rebecca Scott, you guys. That was massive interview. Sorry about the audio bit, but it's Skype and it was an international feed, so we do the best we can. Internets aren't always the best. Stay tuned for more of our show. We'll be right back after this break.